Ooh, this is a bit creepy, but also kind of cool. Well, hello and welcome to the Cairngorms National Park. I'm up here today just for a bit of a solo adventure, just to get a change of scenery, clarity of mind, and enjoy a bit of time in nature. And while I'm here walking around this beautiful woodland environment, I thought it would be nice today to try and answer a challenge that some of you have messaged me about recently, something that I've heard, to be honest, for quite a long time. And if I can help today by sharing some of my thoughts and experience with this aspect of photography, then hopefully it'll help many of you. And it's been inspired by two of you. One of you, Trevor, hello if you're watching, he messaged me on Instagram last week and he said that he has no issues finding things to photograph, but what he does struggle with is photographing things in a way that speaks to him as he's seen them in the field. And then I also had a Zoom call last week with one of you as well about organising a workshop. And this exact same challenge came up in that conversation. So today, like I say, as I'm walking around here, I'm going to try and answer this challenge. What can you do if you go out into nature, you see loads of photographic opportunities, but when you actually photograph them, your images are just flat, they don't speak to you, and you can't quite put what you see into a photograph? It's certainly a very common conundrum, a very common issue. And yeah, let's just see if I can help you with it today. Starting to get a view of the Cairngorm Mountains in Aviemore. Oh, it's been a long time since I last did a hill walk. They're not really my favourite kind of walks, but today I feel like I want some elevation. A nice bird's eye view overlooking the scenery. So when I get to the top, I'll share my thoughts with you. Look at this bark. That is so beautiful. And if we stand back, you can really see how the tree stands out amongst the rest of the forest. Different colour, the light colour of it allows the diffused light we've got today to illuminate it. And then this interest here in the eye would make for a really nice image. Wow, look at that view. Oh my gosh. And it is so peaceful up here. Listen. Apart from a couple of bees buzzing and flies flying around, silence. I hope we're almost there. I think we are. Come on, kid. Come on. So the actual top of the hill is there. There's quite a lot of people up there. There's a beautiful viewpoint back here, but there was a few people there having a picnic as well. So I'm going to head to this bit, sit down, have something to drink, and then I'm going to speak you through some of the things to consider and to look into if you find that your images don't quite speak to you and you can't quite put the essence of the subject that interests you into your photographs. So you can't see the view too well up here. As you can see, it's a very murky day, but the energy up here is so nice. It feels lovely. Aviemore is down there, and there's quite a lot of like industrial noise, so you've not got that peace and quiet up here that I had halfway up this hill, but it is beautiful. So now let's get on to the things to consider if you're finding that you find so many beautiful photographic opportunities, but when you then go to photograph your subject, your images do not speak to you. Now, it's very hard to generalise this because there's so many reasons why this may be the case, and often it's quite personalised, but essentially there comes into, I feel anyway, 4 categories. There's the technical side of it, so the settings, the gear you're using, the composition you're using. There's then the external circumstances, which is the subjects you're choosing, the light, the weather, the time of day. There's then you personally and your internal state. So what would come under this element would be things like how you approach a subject. Do you simply see something beautiful and take a snapshot, or do you allow yourself to slow down and to truly see it? Your emotional state and state of mind can also affect the images that you create, and also your personal interests. Now, something that I think every photographer falls into at some point on the journey is we photograph things that we've been told or taught make good images. But ultimately, we need to photograph things that truly speak to us and truly light us up. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how technically correct your images are, they're not going to speak to you. And then the 4th area to consider is what you do with your images afterwards. And essentially what I'm referring to here is editing. So do you edit your image or don't you? So those, I think, are the 4 kind of pillars to consider here. And within those pillars, I would say personally, based on my experience, the most important things to consider are composition, light, your personal state, and what you do with it afterwards, the editing process. And let me explain this. There's often been a misconception in the photography world that settings is the most important thing and that gear is also really important. Now, I've seen on so many occasions in my own work as well as other people's that you can get the settings bang on and photograph something with the most high quality equipment, and the images are still dull and still don't speak to you. So while gear can make your images sharper and can open you up to different techniques, it is certainly not essential. In fact, some of my favourite images that I ever created was on an entry-level DSLR with a kit lens. And there's also been many times on my journey where I haven't got the settings correct, but because my composition has been strong and the light has been nice, the image still speaks volumes. So one of the reasons I feel composition is so important is because you can photograph the most beautiful subject, but if that subject is surrounded by something that distracts the eye from what you, the photographer, are trying to showcase in your images, the image isn't going to do what you want it to, because the main focus is not on the thing that's actually enticing you to create the image. Also, if you're photographing images that are appearing flat, that's usually because of the composition that you're using. Now, let me give you a couple of examples here. So these photographs were taken really early on in my photography journey. So they're taken with entry-level gear, and as you can see, they are taken in very beautiful light. But this image here is okay, but there's something not quite right with the composition. And this image here, exact same night, minutes apart, but a very different composition. And as you can see, it is a far more pleasing image. So the first thing I would say to focus on if you find that your images are not speaking to you is composition. I personally think it's one of the most, if not the most important technical aspect to photography. And if you can master composition, everything else technically will fall into place. The second thing is light. Now, while weather, time of day and subject are arguably important, I again have seen on many occasions that I've been out in all weather conditions and all times of day and still photographed images that I like. In fact, some of my favourite images have been photographed midday in the midday sun. So while times of day like golden hour and twilight can produce really nice light and colours, they're still not essential to creating images that really speak to you. And if you choose your subjects wisely, it doesn't matter what the weather's doing, you can find something interesting to photograph. But ultimately, you can find a subject that really speaks to you, because it's colourful, because of its shape or whatever. But if the light in that day, the direction of the light, the type of light that's present to you, isn't working in harmony with that subject, your images are still going to look flat. And again, let me give you an example with these photographs here. The third thing that I feel is really important is photographing things that truly speak to you. So yes, you can watch my YouTube channel, many other YouTube channels, you can look at magazines, you can read books, you can go to workshops, but if you're not photographing things that actually speak to you, then your images are not going to speak to you. So I would encourage you to go out for a walk with your camera and photograph whatever truly lights you up. And just try to get out of that mindset of, oh, this will make a good image, to, is this actually speaking to me? Do I actually feel drawn to this subject? Or do I just feel it will make a good image because I've seen somebody else photographing this? Or because I've been taught that this colour and that colour work well together? Start listening to what lights you up. Because while photography can be quite a technical pursuit, ultimately and arguably, it is also an art form. And to be a true creative and a true artist, you need to be photographing things that truly speak to you. So ask yourself that question, are you actually photographing things that speak to you or things that you've been told make a good image? And fourth, and this could be quite controversial, but I personally believe that you need to do a little bit of editing to your photographs to truly make them pop. Now, I personally believe this because I haven't created a single image in my life I've been truly happy with that I haven't done a bit of editing with. Now, just to give you some context, I'm not a big editor, I don't use Photoshop, I don't spend hours stacking and editing images. In fact, about 90% of the photographs that I create are edited in 20 to 30 seconds. I do very minimal editing, but I do photograph in RAW. And that's important to consider because when you photograph in RAW, because there's so much data in the image, it does come out a little bit flat. So you do have to put a little bit of vibrancy into the image, a bit of contrast, play around a little bit with shadows and highlights and whites in order to create the image that you want to create. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, Kim, editing isn't real photography, I'm not talking about AI generated images or replacing the sky. I'm talking about pretty basic editing, like a little bit of contrast, a little bit of highlights, playing around with the shadows, that kind of thing. Nothing too crazy. But there are times when I will play around with the temperature and things just to allow the image to speak a little bit better, working with colour and things like that. But also, just for the little bit of argument's sake there, before digital photography came along and people only did film photography, the darkroom was half of the photographic process. So nowadays, when most people photograph digitally, it could be argued that Lightroom is still half of the process. And today, as I was walking around, I was really starting to realise this. I don't share much about editing my images. I take you out into nature, I show you what I'm seeing, I share what I'm thinking, and really the whole ethos is about inspiring you to get out into nature. But I do the editing process as well, and it's not something that I always share. But I do really feel and believe that editing is part of the photographic process, and my images wouldn't speak to me as much as they do without me doing a degree of editing. And again, let me put some examples on the screen for you here just to give you an idea of what that looks like. So if you're finding that your images aren't speaking to you, maybe learning to edit your photographs could be a great direction to go down. And I appreciate not everybody likes to be on the computer and is digital and is technical, but like I say, these tiny little tweaks to things like contrast and a little bit of vibrancy can make all the difference. So if you find you're out and about in nature, you find plenty of things to photograph, but your images are not speaking to you when you go home and look at them, consider these 4 areas. Is your composition pleasing? Have you photographed a subject that works in harmony with the light that you have available to you on that day? Are you photographing things that truly speak to you? And do you edit your images when you get home? Now, I hope what I've shared in this video will help you forwards on your photographic journey. What I've shared here has been my personal experience and my personal beliefs. As we're all different, you may have experienced or believed something different. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. And if you're still feeling a little bit unsure, or you'd like some personal guidance on your photographic journey, I do offer one-to-one online mentoring. I have one-off sessions if you just want a little bit of guidance, and if you want something more in-depth, I offer 3-month and 6-month mentoring programs. And if you'd prefer to come to something in person with a group of like-minded people, my next immersive photography weekend is happening this October, and next year I have 2 more coastal photography retreats. This year's one was so much fun and I cannot wait to do them again next year. So if any of these things are of interest to you, you can find all the details in the description box below. As always, I want to say a huge thank you for watching, and I wish you a very blessed and creative week.